Hey, everybody, and welcome to an off-season edition of Across the Pitch on the AAT Sports Network. My name is Mike Barrera. Happy to join you in 2026. Happy New Year's to you all. Joined by our original co-host, me, Dave Miller, but also, Dave, we are joined by our newest member of AAT Sports Network. His name is Ben Brecher. I almost called you Ben Bender before the show started. So, Ben, first of all, thanks for joining our team. Excited to have you helping with some coverage this year. But tell the fans a little bit about yourself, your background, before we kind of dive into this off-season conversation, which just got more interesting with the news of Alejandro Bedoya and Michael Uhre returning and leaving.
Yeah, thank you, Mike, for having me. I am currently a college student. But yeah, I've been a Union fan my entire life since I started in 2010.
Mhm.
And yeah, I've had some experience in the past writing for the Philly soccer page, writing articles for them covering um, different thoughts I had on their fans view column, as well as contributing in occasional podcasts and writing articles for the MLS Now podcast. Um, and yeah, I've been a Union season ticket member with my dad since 2015. Been to a lot of games, a lot of away games as well. And yeah, love chatting about the boys in blue.
Awesome. I'm going to pop your Twitter handle up on the screen right now at Ben Brecher 18, Brecher Brecher for those of you who are listening to the show and don't see it on your screen. So Ben, again, happy to have you on. I know you're also really knowledgeable about MLS. So that will help us discussing players. Maybe if we sign somebody in MLS, I know you'll have knowledge on that. So really, again, excited to have you on. But let's get into today's conversation. We want to discuss offseason moves, and we had a few things to talk about. Of course, the Union have been busy this offseason, but today we're recording on January 8th, 2026. The Union have announced that they've re-signed Alejandro Bedoya to another contract. I believe it runs to the end of 2026, if I'm remembering that correctly. But on top of that, just 2 minutes before we even press the record button, it has been announced that Michael Uhre has signed with you guys. You guys don't have to say the name. FC Michelin. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I
Yeah,
think.
Okay.
FC Michelin.
So it's been a lot to break down, to react to in real time. So Dave, I want to go to you first. Before we even get to this offseason and the moves that have been made, what are your thoughts on how the Union season ended with the Supporter Shield and an early playoff exit?
I think. You look at it. You have to sort of look at it from the regular season and the actual postseason. I think because it's well documented. Mike, I mean, you were very, very uninspired with how the Union looked going into last season, and then just perform how well they did all the way through the regular season, and just not even just win, but comfortably win the Supporter Shield and essentially walk to it was an incredible feat and achievement, and the second piece of silver in the team's history. So you can't be too picky about that. But I think when you then, I guess, sort of similar trap to what they sort of came into when they won the first Supporter Shield, I guess, is just, I think the confidence of the team. I think everyone was so confident on and how the team would do and how they would perform. You'd sort of expect them to go far and deep in the playoffs, possibly, and have a nice cup final ever. And perhaps lose in such an uninspiring fashion as they did was a massive letdown. I think you have to sort of split the two up, because I think if you just look at the regular season, entity, it was an incredible season, and the fact that they were so consistent throughout, and they had a good US Open Cup run as well, making it to the semi-finals. Again, that part of the season was great, but then you just look at the playoffs, it was just another letdown where, again, they probably should have done better. They should have gone further, but I guess that just sums up the Philadelphia Union, where it's just nearly men, essentially. Just that close away from, just inches away from getting to where they need to be, but never being there, never getting there enough. Well, never getting there, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, listen, Ben, you and I again have been Union fans for so long. I started following them in 2012. So again, we know the years and pain and agony that we've gone through with being irrelevant to the Open Cup losses, etc. And it just always feels like this team can never get over the hump. And when we had a brand new coach in Carnell, it was the test of, can you do what Curtin could not? Like, can you win a trophy? And in his first season, he goes out and wins a Supporter Shield. And to Dave's point, we both said on this show prior to the season, they might not make the playoffs. We don't really know what kind of depth this team is. We don't have an exact idea of who Lukic is or even Damiani, etc. But I mean, as someone who's been a fan as long as you have, is there a sense of accomplishment this year? What is your feeling after really earning your first supporter shield, considering the first one was kind of that COVID shield?
Yeah, I think if you ask many Union fans, or even like as we know, many MLS pundits and stuff before the last year,
Yeah.
they would say that the Union were not one of the marquee teams in the East or in the league.
Yep.
And yeah, so I think coming in, there was an expectation that the Union were gonna, I guess, drop their guard and be worse than they were under Jim Curtin.
Mhm.
But so yeah, I think through the regular season, yeah, I think it's been viewed as a total success of a season.
Sure.
Definitely winning a trophy. I think Bradley Carnell came in and did a great job at promoting a different kind of play. Under Jim Curtin, he was a little hesitant to change his tactics, to make subs, obviously, and to, I guess, really get rid of the players who he felt he had like a really big bond with, like Daniel Gazdag, someone who played a lot of minutes under Curtin, even towards the end of games. But yeah, I think when it comes to the playoffs, though, I do think of that as a little disappointing. Definitely
Mhm.
because obviously the playoffs ran through Philly, and there's a chance to host an MLS Cup, which would have been massive for the city and the club. Yeah, but I thought in general, I would view the season as positive and
Yeah.
definitely successful. Where we are able to bring in a trophy and ultimately qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup as well.
Yeah, and that's February 3rd. We talked about this again before we recorded. It's only basically 4 weeks away, and this team still feels incomplete. So it's interesting your perspectives, both of you guys' perspectives on this, because I think back to the 2022-2023 season, right? You go as close as you possibly can to winning MLS Cup, and you decide to run it back, and that just did not work. We saw that firsthand. The running it back with the same exact roster did not work. So then you have this particular example from this year. You again, I think we can all agree, and I can agree as well. This was a successful season under a new coach. The players were great. Everybody fit together perfectly. Danley, Jean Jacques, and Lukic being the perfect example of that. And rather than reinforcing this squad and building this squad and using the bones that you already have, you break it down pretty significantly. So you have two examples of what Tanner and the front office have done. You have won something and accomplished something great and kept it the same, and then you've won something and accomplished something that nobody thought you could do, and you're tearing it apart to start basically over again. So it's really interesting how the Union have handled this. And I talked to somebody the other day who's a Union fan and a Philly sports fan as well, and they said you would never see the Eagles doing this type of stuff, right? You would never see them win a Super Bowl or win the NFC East and then just take Jalen Hurts and trade him to the Dallas Cowboys or whatever it might be. So it's I think the Philadelphia Union fans are beginning to learn the hard way that no matter what the year prior was, this front office will sell and will change up the roster anytime they feel like it. And we again, we have a lot of offseason moves to talk about today. The most impactful one, I guess let's talk about the departures first. Ty Baribo is at DC United. Jacob Glesnes has gone to LA Galaxy. And now Kai Wagner had an incredible debut for Birmingham City, but that's the biggest one I think to discuss. But Ben, I'll shoot to you first. Ty, Glesnes, and Kai, your thoughts and where would you rank them in terms of the most important to leave compared to the least?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, I think all of these were big moves, but big departures for the Union. But yeah, as we've looked at it in the past, the Union aren't afraid to trade players that might have really negative effects with the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when people thought getting rid of McGlynn, getting rid of Gazdag, um, were going to be big moves. They turned out to be the right moves.
Right.
Um, I think a part of that, why the fans do get mad, is because they're going to other teams in the league, especially with Gazdag. Giving him to another Eastern Conference powerhouse was not the best move. But yeah, I think that the moves do make sense. First, Ty Bariba to DC, entering the last year of his contract, obviously wanted DP money that we just weren't going to offer him. I think he goes to a team where he'll get that money.
Mm-hmm.
It may be hard to get a move back to Europe given DC's record the past couple of seasons, but it looks like they are making a lot of moves. Obviously, they brought in a club record signing for them, which
Mm-hmm.
is almost twice our amount for Alado.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think Ty Baribo is a guy who kind of depended on service. He was a one touch. He always was in the right spot, like Gazdag. But
Yeah.
yeah, I see the move as Carnell wanting to lean more upon two physical strikers who can play back to goal, hold up, play like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, then moving on to Jacob Glesnes, that one caught me the most off guard because I expected him to take a really big leap forward as as a captain player, honestly, for this
Sure.
team. When Bedoya's not starting, Blake's injured. I expected him to obviously coming off he was a runner up for Defender of the Year this year. Coming off really great season. But yeah, obviously it's the wrong age of 30, wrong way. And yeah, the team thought that it'd be best to move him. Got a good amount of GAM for it. I don't have many thoughts on it yet because I'd like to think it's a good move from the
Right.
front office, but he did show that he could bounce back from a serious sports hernia injury. And yeah, I guess we'll see what that happens with what happens with that. But yeah, then going to the Kai Wagner news, which I believe is, if I had to rank them, like you said, Kai Wagner 100% be number one, the biggest loss. I would argue that he's the best player to ever play for this club in terms of technical quality, everything like that. He should 100% be in the Ring of Honor. But then, yeah, under it, I put probably Glesnes then, and then Ty Baribo. So I'd do it reverse order, like I said. But yeah, Kai Wagner, he always wanted to leave Philly, not because of Philly, but because he wanted to go back to Europe and pursue a move there. And yeah, he made that very clear on his social media the past couple of days. But yeah, I feel like 2 million, a little over 2 million was a little low for him, given that, I mean, he is 28, but he's still, I think, in his prime and delivering at a high level. I think he's been the best ever player.
Yeah.
Obviously, came over in 2019 and basically has been here for all of our success as a club. So it's definitely going to be a really hard player to replace. I don't even know if we can, but yeah, that's where I would rank them.
No, I think we've always been able to replace the players previously and almost improved in positions. I mean, you could argue that, and I say this with a lot of respect, I love Jose Martinez, but I think you could argue that Danley's a better player than him. Even Lukic at times can be a better player. Again, I love Jack Elliott, but you could argue that McConaughey is a really great player in his own right and maybe an upgrade as he gets older and matures. We've always been able to improve. I mean, you could look at Baribo and Carranza. We've always been able to improve. This is one that I don't know if we can. I think the you saying that he's the best player to ever play for the club is not an overreaction, or I think it's pretty accurate, and I think you can make a really great case for it. Andre Blake is a given, right? Like 3-time MLS Keeper of the Year, one of the best keepers in history of the league. I get that, but Kai seemed irreplaceable. I mean, Dave, I don't know if you have the same concerns as we do, but we saw what happened when he wasn't playing. We also saw what happened when Kai wasn't able to get service in the box and how one-dimensional this team looked. How do you feel knowing that Kai is no longer going to be on the left-hand side every single match?
The big thing now is that was the whole Union style of play. So I guess you're in sort of a catch-22 where, again, he was so integral to the way in which Union played.
Yeah.
But it became so easy and so predictable to how teams could then work out how the Union were going to play, because it was always, nothing ever came down the right-hand side. It was always get the ball out left, get the ball to Kai Wagner, and let Kai Wagner put his crosses in the box, and let Kai Wagner attack the left. It was always wing play out to the left. So I guess it could be a blessing in disguise in the sense that, the Union are going to have to change their approach this year. Is this perhaps Bradley Carr now really now being able to implement how he does want to play? Again, I think I do agree. I think Kai is probably the greatest player in the team's history.
Right.
But it's just again, this is a massive offseason because now the Union are going to have to completely change their style of play and their approach to how they attack and take games on now, because they won't have that dominating presence down the left hand side.
Mm-hmm.
Creatively this year, this is going to be a big one because Quinn's going to be out for most of the season.
Yeah,
as well. It's going to be really interesting to see how Bradley Carnell does approach this, because is this perhaps his way of now being able to fully implement how he wants to play? I think, as we alluded to as well, having two more physical strikers in attack,
Hmm.
rather than having one guy who pops in around the box and then Damiani who sort of does all the cleaning up. And I think we discussed it plenty last season regarding Damiani. And sorry to go off topic here, but in terms of how the Union played, like Damiani was always not just he's a bigger body, but he wasn't just the striker that was hanging around the box and trying to get on the end of crosses. He was trying to get the ball on the edge of the box, creating chances for himself, and like he was getting the right places. So, I mean, again, without Kai, without Quinn, and having that creativity, I mean, we'll see. But I think I'm confident that perhaps the Damiani will be able to step into the Baribo shoes and find the goals this year, because he was having the chances. It was just a case of putting him in the back of the net. And this year is a
Right.
massive chance for him to take that next step. And um, for me, I think Glesnes is going to be a huge loss as well. Because I think you look at, we
Yeah.
know we always discuss that Andre Blake's experience heading teams, the club captain, but he's always injured. Like
Hmm.
it's always play two games, play two games, miss four. And it's sort of
Yeah.
like, again, he's aggressive. He's probably still is the best goalkeeper in the MLS, but again, you're going to be going into games this year with Rick McCanya and an inexperienced or younger, inexperienced centre half alongside them potentially, unless they sign a more experienced body between now and the start of the season. And again, that where when the back three, that's when in like a back four and that central three, the goalkeeper and two centre halves, you need that experienced head in there to lead the line and guide things and make sure everyone feels comfortable. If you've got three inexperienced players and not as experienced players, no leaders in there, it's gonna be interesting to see um, how they approach things.
I think the Jacob Glessens thing is interesting because I think he benefited a lot from Makanya being next to him. And I think Makanya benefited a lot from him being next to Jacob Glessens. That's not to take anything away from Glessens' season. He obviously deserved to be in the conversation of defender of the year. Same with Kai Wagner. But having Makanya there playing as well as he did obviously was beneficial to Jacob. Um, and if you're talking about the additions that the Union have made, they kind of segue us into this next part of this conversation. They signed Ben Bender, was it today or yesterday, to an extension, which may be partially because Quinn Sullivan has an uncertain timetable and time and return possibly. Alejandro Bedoya, of course, comes back, and we'll talk about that briefly. They re-signed George Marks, which would be helpful for Union too as well, since he'll be behind Rick, and I thought he was reliable. Um, the biggest thing though, and the most I guess eye opening is that they have gone after three center backs. So they have Larson, who's 25, Sundstrom, he's 19, he's from North Carolina FC, and then you're currently in the finalization and conversation for Gagne Martinez. He's a 22-year-old Colombian. So you're adding a lot of center back depth. I don't know if they go to switch three in the back. I know Ben, you and I talked about how they might be looking for a left back as well. They just got rid of Isaiah LaFleur, sent him to Nashville for a waiver improvement, essentially. So I don't know if a left back's coming from MLS. I don't know if the front office is looking out overseas to get somebody. I'm not entirely sure. But the depth is definitely a concern. I mean, Indy Vasilev can only do so much. We saw he wasn't as creative as Quinn Sullivan or Milan Olaski. Of course, Olaski returns as well. Then you think of the replacement for Kai Baribo. You're thinking Alado is probably going to be that like for like replacement because, and again, Quentin Hall, who helps us with coverage, he'd had a really great player breakdown on Twitter, showing how Alado is very much like Baribo, and in the sense that he can get a service in the box and have a one timer put in the back of the net, and he can also hold up the ball really well. But of course, then Michael Ua is gone too as of today, and then there just seems to be a lot of uncertainty and depth. I mean, Ben, I guess let's talk about the additions: Larson, Sundstrom, Martinez as of right now, and Alado. Where's your confidence in those additions, and how did you feel seeing the replacements that the front office is trying to bring in?
Yeah. I think first, let's talk about Yafet Seri Larson, the new
Yeah.
center back that I expect to be a starter on game
Mhm.
one
Yeah.
next to Makanya. I think he's essentially a Jacob Glesnes replacement.
Yeah.
He is Scandinavian as well, and he comes with a good amount of Europa League experience. Um, and yeah, I think the fees around 1 million to 1.5 million, somewhere
Mhm.
around there that we'll sign for him. So but yeah, when Gleshnis came to us, he was the same age, I believe, 25.
Yeah,
So
roughly. Yeah.
I think the union, all that means is they're just trying to get younger. I think they want to get younger, which obviously has its downsides, given that we are going to be, like I said, in the CCC. We are potentially, if we get past the Defense Force, going to have to play Club America, where you need veterans to be able to
God.
I guess, compete with that type of team.
Yeah, that's a daunting task. Go ahead,
Um,
continue though.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, the other moves, Geiner Martinez, I think his market value when I checked is around 200K. So not much. I expect him to be a union player though, not a union two. It
Mhm.
just feels weird having an actual center back on the bench potentially because it always our bench only ever used to be Bizo and maybe another outside back. But yeah,
Right.
I expect him to contribute heavily with the first team. And yeah, Finn Sundstrom, a 19-year-old guy from North Carolina. He's been pretty good. I see has a lot of potential with what I've read about him. We'd acquire his rights from DC United, I think last week, maybe a couple weeks ago. But yeah, I expect him to be a Union 2 player.
Mhm.
It's going to be kind of like Neil Pierre. If Neil Pierre stays, I expect that he'll move up to the first team and compete for minutes there. But yeah, like you said, Alado, I obviously he's a club record signing now.
Yeah.
He is going to be the guy who we expect to score goals this season. Um, yeah, he'll form a partnership with Damiani. Those two, I feel like, are obviously as of right now the given starters on match day one.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, I expect the Union, obviously, with Ua leaving, to go out and get a third striker.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, that's where I guess we're at now. Like Dave said, there's going to be a real big lack of creativity in the offense, obviously, with Wagner leaving and Quinn Sullivan out injured. Personally, I don't think Milan Alaski is that type of guy who will have a perfect through ball to get it in. He
Right.
does shoot from distance. He'll be that guy, but we definitely need to go out, get a dynamic playmaker who can definitely create chances.
Listen, you talk about Olaski shooting from distance. When I used to place bets on the game, I would always look for like Olaski outside the 18 shot on target because it was almost a
Yeah.
guarantee he was going to let two of them rip. That's absolutely is accurate in how he plays. Um, I think there is. I like Bruno Damiani. I think he's an underappreciated player. I think that you can't just look at goals scored for forwards. Like how are they doing, right? I think Michael Uwa is a perfect example of that. And again, we'll talk about him and Bedoya in a second. But at the end of the day, we need to score goals if you're a striker, and he did not score a lot. So there is now a bit of added pressure to what if Damiani doesn't score again this season? Can Alado be the Baribo replacement like for like and get 15, 20 some goals? I don't know. But I think the biggest concern I have is what you mentioned about the third striker. Unfortunately, we saw the Union already suffer from this before. You get rid of Sergio Santos 2022. You get rid of Burke the following season. You never really replaced Corey Burke until last year, because even when Julian Carranza was on the team, Ty Bariba wasn't playing behind him with Curtin. I basically put him in the doghouse, and it didn't. It took a Julian Carranza departure for Ty Bariba to even play. Last year, I felt it was the first time since 2022 where you had really good striker depth. You had Baribo, Damiani, and then Michael Ua, and even you could put Olaski up there as well as kind of a quasi fourth striker. So you had depth last season for the first time when it feels like forever. My concern is that this front office is so hell bent on starting the younger players that you're going to rely a lot on Marcus Anderson and Sal Levis and Eddie Davis. And we know firsthand we just can't do that. We saw that for 2 seasons. What happens when you don't have striker depth? And Dave, I don't know if you have that same concern, but to Ben's point, your season starts in less than 30 days.
Yeah.
They don't have a third striker.
Speaking of Sergio Santos, is available. He is available on a free deal if we want to sign him. I mean, just put it out
There
there.
you go. Bring him
But
back.
no, in all seriousness, I think I think as Ben mentioned as well, like just the lack of dynamic creativity in the team now. You've got no left back. We've got no recognised left back anyway, and that's where you got most of your width in your team was from your fullbacks. And I mean, Westfield was solid at right back this year, but
Yeah.
again, he's not as creative, not as creative, not as no as a Kai Wagner. He's not got as good delivery as Kai Wagner. Again, so does that then, I think as we alluded to, does that force the Union and Bradley Carr now to look at it and change their approach in the sense that do they look to play perhaps with more pace and with wingers out wide and, shifting players like Iloski and Vasislev into more central positions? Because again, Vasislev's all right, is decent in terms of, his passing abilities, but he's not the quickest player.
No.
Again, this team has a massive lack of pace now, and it's going to be massive. I think, Mike, we alluded to it a few years ago when Jim Curtin was going through that phase of playing Ali Bedoya on the right hand side every single game of every single game, even in the summer when it was 30 degrees. Well, I don't know what it is in Fahrenheit, but it was like 30 plus degrees Celsius every game, and he's playing in the direct heat of Miami twice, not Florida twice in a week, and things like that. You're like, you got now a big issue where, I mean, again, where does Ali Bedoya sort of slot in? Because I think, again, if the guys alluded to, if we end up playing, perhaps say a back three, is Bedoya better suited to playing as perhaps a right-sided central defender rather than in the middle of the park where he's going to get overrun and where he can use his experience to guide, a Macania or whoever through the game and Andrew Rick. Do you know what I mean? Like, I guess that's where the excitement perhaps comes from this year is the fact you have no idea how the Union are going to approach this, but I guess in a sense as well, last year, in a sense, was a bit of a double sword in the sense that this looks like they're now rebuilding, whereas last year they had such great success where you thought this would be the year where they, take that next step and kick on. I mean, with the money they're seemingly spending, it perhaps shows that they are trying to kick on. But I mean, these are massive franchise or team altering changes that, I mean, you're losing old guard. You're losing guys that have been integral, not just to the success that this team's had since the end of COVID. Well, since COVID to now, in
Right.
probably your two greatest players in team history, Glasnez. Well, two of your three greatest players in team history, Glasnez and Kai Wagner. And obviously, Andre Blake's probably the only other one that is the other greatest player in team history.
Yeah.
And again, you lose another player who's integral in Mikel Lua as well. It sort of feels like now the team is slowly but surely starting to change the guard and perhaps try and turn a leaf. But is this going to be a rebuild year where everyone gets their hopes up and thinks this is the year they're going to compete? Is this going to end up being like perhaps a rebuild year, or it's underwhelming for the season? They kick on next year, or are they going to keep on ticking at the same level that they did last year? I mean, there's so many unknowns, which is exciting. Again, I've been calling for the Union to play with wingers for years now, and I just think having that direct pace out wide and people being able to. And, having that direct pace, and I think having two big strikers up front, they would excel with having quick wingers who can get at defenders and, have defenses playing on the back foot all the time rather than, I just think this team needs pace, and that's what we're getting. This team needs pace.
So one thing that one thing we benefited from last season was the fact that we really only had to focus on the league. We were in Open Cup, obviously, too. There was not the congestion that we had in 2023, where we played 55 games in 2023. If you look back at 2022, when we went for the MLS Cup run, I forget how far we went in Open Cup that year, if we did it all. But there just wasn't as many games that year. 2023, obviously, you had a lot of games. Last year wasn't too bad, but my concern is, if you have a stretch where you make a run through CONCACAF Champions Cup, you have to rotate your players. And Dave, you're exactly right. We cannot have it Bedoya starting multiple games in a row. It's a recipe for disaster. And the problem right now is the depth. You look at center back wise, you have Makanya as your definite starter. Again, Ben, I agree with you. I think Larson probably starts, but then you have Martinez, assuming he comes over. You have Pierre, and then you have Sundstrom. Really, no experience at all in terms of age wise from the three of them. Uncertain, they never played in MLS to that level. Really, Pierre has, but not significantly. So you have a lot of inexperience there. I imagine if the season were to start right now, you're putting Frankie at left back or Nathan Harriel at left back, and you're probably starting both of them on either side of the center backs. But it's like, okay, so then Olivier Mbaizo is your backup right back. Still, he survived all this stuff, but the midfield is just decimated. Quinn Sullivan's not coming back for a while, and even if he does, I know ACL tears are easier to get over nowadays than they were back 20 years ago, but you don't know what kind of player Quinn Sullivan's going to be when he comes back. That is an uncertainty. I mean, again, I don't say that in a negative way. I say that in a realistic way. Ben Bender we saw was not reliable. So behind Indy Vasiliev and Milan and Danley and Lukic, you have Bueno as your probably most reliable player. But even him, we've seen him go through his in and outs and disappear sometimes and have his great moments. So my concern is how much lack of depth there is in every single part of this rotation. I'd say right now, your goalkeeper is probably your deepest position because you have Andrew Rick and
Yeah.
George Marks, and that's alarming for me to say for a team that just won the Shield last year. So again, we still have 3 or 4 weeks to go. I'm not trying to like jump to conclusions now, but right now this team is not deep enough, and that's a guarantee. Um, so let's talk about Bedoya. I know that's the big topic today. Ben, again, you and I have been fans for a long time. Alejandro Bedoya comes back. What were your thoughts when you first saw that signing?
Uh, when Bedoya, yeah, when Bedoya got announced today, that he's coming back for one more year, yeah, I thought it was obviously a very, very good move from my point of view.
Mm-hmm.
I think as long as he wants to continue playing, you let him. He won't take up that much salary cap at all, and he's
Yeah.
so important for, I guess, transitioning this union in like a new era. I guess bringing them between the old union to the new union. That's what I expect him and Andre Blake to, I guess, continue to lead.
Mm-hmm.
These bunch of young, inexperienced guys. Obviously, whenever Bedoya's on the field, he's going to be the captain.
Sure.
He's our leader. Yeah, he's been here since I believe 2016, and he's really redefined the union. I remember before that, we really didn't have a marquee signing. He was as close as a marquee signing as we could have gotten back then. Um, and yeah, coming back, I think it's a good move. He I think the biggest thing is that he understands his role in this team. He
Right.
understands he's not going to be a, a week in, week out starter, even though sometimes in the past couple of years he has been starting. Um, yeah, but I think it's a great move to have Ale back for one more year.
Absolutely, Dave. How are your thoughts? I know Curtin ran him to the ground, but what are your thoughts on the
Yeah.
captain returning?
No, I think I do agree. I think it, again, especially in what looks like it could be a transition year, having a player who's been there, done that, and it's gonna. I mean, again, it's a big opportunity to have a lot of with the way that the Union do sign players and bring players in. You're gonna have a lot of more inexperienced players coming in, especially. I mean, look at some of the signings that they've already made. Like there's a lot of younger players coming in, so having that experienced head in the dressing room to help feed players through, and it's gonna be massive. And I think as Ben alluded to, like Ali's been there, he's done that. It's like having a coach on the pitch as well because he's
Yep.
that experienced. It wouldn't shock me if he went and become part of the coaching team when he retired anyway. If he ever does retire, I mean, he could play till he's 50. It looks like, Ali. But I mean, yeah, it's massive. And I think this year I'm really intrigued to see how he plays this year because I feel like with the way that the Union might set up this year, I mean, I don't know how they're going to set up. I'd like to me, it feels like the way that they have gone. It feels like they could. I think it's Ben alluded to as well. They might end up shifting the way that they do want to play to having the two more physical, aggressive strikers,
Right.
having bigger bodies, which then perhaps does suit perhaps a more having more wide players who can then get balls in the box, get crosses in the box, try and create one-on-one situations in the penalty area, and try and stretch teams. Having the player Ali, you're not too sure how his role would fit in that because I think he perhaps don't want to sound too disrespectful to him, but I don't. Perhaps he might not have the legs to play a aggressive pressing style that I know Carnell likes to play for 90 minutes in the central midfield.
Sure.
He might not have the pace to play out wide and provide that cover and defensive cover as well. Provide that threat going forward. So who knows what his role is going to be? So I'm intrigued to see what his role is on the field this year. But I mean, it's great to have him back, and again, one of I think it's Ben alluded to as well at the time, probably as big of a superstar signing as Union could have made at the time. I think at that point when he came over to the team, it was a massive thing for a US international, a guy that has played in the big European leagues, played in the Champions League and with Rangers and things like that, to have come over to the Philadelphia Union and actually a player of that stature to actually want to join the Union at a time when perhaps the Union were middling out and sort of just in the low echelons of the MLS. These sort of, to be fair to Ali, he was the player that sort of signified that the Union were more than just happy to be there. And again, I think
Agreed.
if you look at the uptick in the playoffs, it sort of coincides with when Bedoya signed, and they suddenly started. I think was it his second year they won a playoff game. I think it was the second year they won a
If he
playoff game.
signed in 2016, they won a playoff game in 2018 against the Red Bulls.
Yeah, it was a bit second year.
Or was it
2019,
2019?
20,
2019.
second
That
or third year they then won a
that's the
playoff game.
4-3 win, I think. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. It
so
gets blurry after a while, Ben.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let me read the caption that came out from the inbox today for the Union. So just to give you an idea, it says Bedoya will be contributing on the field as well as continuing his responsibilities in the Union's player development and front office initiatives, building on the work he has done across multiple departments since 2024. Bradley Carnell says Alejandro's impact on our organization continues to be invaluable, both on and off the field. While he remains an important contributor as a player, his leadership and insights in its player development and front office roles are especially beneficial. His experience and deep understanding of our system makes him a steady presence and trusted mentor for our younger players, while his work behind the scenes continues to strengthen our culture. We're excited to have Alejandro back as we move into the new season. That was Bradley Carnell's thoughts on Alejandro Bedoya. I agree with everything you guys have said. I agree with what Carnell says as well. It's clear he's going to be that Brandon Graham type of player to have a like for like comparison. He can come back whenever he wants. Like BG understands he's only going to play 7 snaps per game. Alejandro understands his role, what he can do, and how he can contribute. I do find it interesting how much of the front office and player development he's doing. I think that will be what he transitioned into, similar to what we saw with Brian Dawkins. If you guys remember, Brian Dawkins was part of the front office for the Eagles when they won the Super Bowl back in 2018. I think he was like some sort of executive. So I can see them. I can see the Union kind of following in that path. And I think rightfully so. Ben, I think you mentioned it. He can play until he wants to stop playing, and I don't think he ever wants to wear another badge. And you're right. Like he was the start of the respect that the Union were going to earn in 2018, 2019, etc. I think when in terms of what a player signified, let's talk about Micah Ua now. Micah Ua was that big signing before we started making these really competitive runs. We heard today, not that long ago, that he's no longer with the Union. He's going back to play in the Danish league, and he was brought in as the guy who would start the Shield runs, MLS Cup runs. He would be paired with Carranza and Burke, etc. And it's a pretty big loss. And I think he will always go down as one of the most underappreciated players in Philadelphia Union history because he didn't score a ton of goals like we expected him. He did so many of the little things right. And he was such a good leader without being Bedoya and wearing the captain armband. So Ben, I mean, what are your thoughts on Michael Ua's departure and just how he was as a Union player for now, 6 or 7 years?
Yeah, I agree with what you said. I think he's a very underrated player on this team. I feel like he got a lot more stick from the fans than he deserved. Obviously, he had some big misses, which did cost us points and stuff like that. Could be frustrating, but at his prime in like 2022, he was really good. He really was able to stretch the defense and combine well. Even last year, he had big moments that brace versus Colorado in the 3-1 win at home.
Yep.
Those points helped us get the Supporters Shield. Every point mattered, and I mean, he stepped up when he needed to. He offered a good third option on the bench, but yeah, obviously also scored the first ever goal at Geodis Park, Nashville Stadium.
Hell
that
yeah.
was when he was really good as well. But yeah, before his ankle injury, he had the ability to stretch the pitch, which is really, we haven't had someone on the Union like that. I mean, Sergio Santos was similar, but Ua, the only negative I feel like towards, which I saw a lot last season, was that Ua tended to drift out wide, and wide and to the side, which kind of hurt us given that he needed to be in the middle with our strikers. But yeah, I thought he really helped unlock a defense at his best when we had the three-headed monster with Ua, Carranza, and Gazdag. He allowed Gazdag to find the pockets of space in between, and yeah, he is a very big reason for our success over those last couple of years.
Definitely. I know Dave. I
Yeah.
know Dave. You and I are big UA fans as well. What were your
Yeah.
thoughts on the UA departure and his role with the Union?
I think he got the best out of Julian Carranza. I think he was the
Yeah.
player that,
Mhm.
if you look at the way that Carranza started his Union career and before, when it was a short before, but shortly before, and once Uar came in, I think that's when he really started to kick on, become the incredible player that he was. Um, I mean, like, honestly, I think once Uar came in, I think that gave him more space. I think it diverted more attention away from Carranza because, again, defenders had to deal with that pace and that threat of Uar on the other side. So again, it took less attention away from Carranza. And yeah, I think in another integral player of the team's recent history that,
Yeah.
again, I think we agree, Mike. He was so underappreciated even this year. 13 goal contributions, a lot of them having come off the bench and being in that impact sub. And fair play to him from going back home and or going back to Nordic Europe and going back up that way and getting another very good club and getting another very good move. I'm sure he'll do really well there.
Yeah.
It's a shame to see him go. I think, as I alluded to before, this upcoming season is going to be. It feels like a new era. This is it. I think last year was the closing of the book, the final chapter of that old era of Union. That sounds weird. I guess last year was mostly a lot of Jim Curtin's squad, and I feel like this
Sure.
year is the start of them turning over that new chapter and moving on a lot of players that were from the Curtin era, and this is now the start of the Bradley Carnell era. This is Carnell's group. This is his group of players. This is his core of players that he wants to have, as opposed to the players that he inherited. And perhaps this is their way of trying to move on and trying to become their own team, have their own style of playing, paint their own image of what they are, as opposed to what we saw at times last year and what the Union were known in the Joan Curtin era, which was gritty, tough, hard to break down, quick counter attacking. A lot of times ruthless, clinical. I guess this might be a time for Carnell to perhaps change that image in some ways. I mean, again, last year I know Carnell likes to be an aggressive, high, fast paced, like pressing team.
Hmm.
Again, need to be clinical, but definitely I think this is the closing of one chapter and the start of a new one. With in terms of how the Union are going to build their squad and roster building and how this team's going to look for years to come.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're talking about Ua's contributions last year, he ends his time with the Union as I think tied for third all time in scoring. So I think everybody's very quick to praise Julian Carranza, rightfully so. They acknowledge all the amazing goals he's had, his hat tricks, etc. But him and Ua end their Union careers basically tied, if not 3-4 in terms of goals scored. But last year we saw some really good assists. We saw him make a lot of the little plays that you don't always show up in the box score. I believe it was a goal against Miami. He runs across the entire box, comes out of nowhere, gets the ball. I believe he gets hit in the process and gives Ty Baribo a chance to score a goal against Miami. You also look at the LA Galaxy goal. I'm pretty sure his chip shot is the reason why you end up winning that game, a dramatic game at home. He just did a lot of the little things that didn't show up. And if you're talking about his biggest contribution last year, you could argue that his goal to win the Supporter Shield against NYCFC might have been the most important part. I mean, it was a 1-0 game at home against NYCFC to win the Supporter Shield. That goal will always be Michael Ua. And I think what you saw too from him was when things got stale and when you needed pace and you needed someone that had experience and who could pass the ball, he gets brought in the 60th minute and he's clinical. And like you said, Ben, with the Colorado match, right? He just steps on and just kind of flexes for half an hour and gets his points. So I do think that he got the short end of the stick at times, and I think he will never be praised as much as Gazdag and Carranza or any other players that walk in and that are strikers. But I think he deserves to be so, and I definitely miss Michael off the bench because right now, as we talked about not that long ago, Marcus Anderson might be your best third striker, and that's not exactly the most exciting thing for me as a Union fan. Um, but listen, we have about what 3.5 weeks to go before this season starts. We've kind of broken down every single player that's left, come back, etc. Ben, I'm going to shoot to you first. What are your final thoughts, and what are you looking to see in the last few weeks of the offseason before we kick off in the CONCACAF?
Yeah, good question. I think in the last couple weeks, first the union we have a lot of flexibility with what we can do.
Sure.
We if we wanted to, we can add another DP. We can add U22 spots. yeah, we could also transition our model, which I'm not quite sure if we'll do yet, to if we wanted to play Olaski as another forward and get wingers, like the New York Red Bulls actually this offseason are transitioning to an energy style like we do with wingers. They got Cade Cowell. They're going to probably bring in other players as well. But yeah, they play a similar formation to us where they're high pressing, gritty, try to win the ball in the midfield, 50-50s. But yeah, going back to my previous point, we have a lot of flexibility, and I really want the Union to try to address a couple key areas. I think first, a left-footed left back is crucial to this team. Uh, Frankie Westfield, he can play left back. He did so at a pretty elite rate in the MLS Next Pro a couple seasons ago, but I feel like it'd be kind of predictable his style play in MLS. He's obviously a right-footed player playing on the left side. He would be cutting in a lot, and yeah, I feel like the good teams would really be able to understand how that's affecting our style of play. Next, I think it is a crucial need, probably the most important, honestly, to get an attacking piece. I think Milan Olaski is best as one of our cams. I don't think he is as good as one of our strikers, because obviously I think we're going to go to more like hold up strikers, more power up there. Because I think Olaski obviously so good in transition last year with San Diego and with us. He wants to get on that knockdown ball, get the ball, and then obviously shoot from distance and stuff like that. But I think an attacking player really to replace the need while Quinn's out for probably around half the season. Get a guy like winger/cam guy who's young, maybe U22, who's dynamic and can attack at pace. Is the option in MLS? Maybe. It seems like the Union are more searching abroad. I expect the left back to come from abroad. I don't think the Union will be shopping in league for a left back. But yeah, I think that an attacking player could come from the league. Obviously, they're proven in the MLS. They could make a splash if they wanted to. I mean, I tweeted this yesterday. I still think it'd be a good fit. Noah Allen on Inter Miami. Obviously, Inter Miami keep reloading, keep getting better. Noah Allen can play center back, left back. That's the types of players that Carnell likes. But again, I think our defense is pretty much set besides the left back. I think that another guy I thought would have been really good on the Union, it's obviously, well, it's like zero chance right now as they just re-signed him, would be Owen Wolf on Austin, who they signed to a long-term U22 contract. If the Union really wanted to do a cash for and a big trade across the league, but that's not the Union way, because I feel like Owen Wolf would have been a great fit in one of those cam/winger spots. But yeah, I guess my lasting thoughts are that there's a lot of flexibility, and I expect the Union to make a lot of moves. I've been, in the last couple transfer windows, I've been proven wrong. They've been, like Dave mentioned earlier, they've been spending money now. So I guess as a Union fan, you never know what could happen. I do think there is a real possibility that we break our transfer record again in the next couple transfer windows. But yeah, I'm just excited to see what happens and get ready for the start of the season.
Absolutely. Dave, how about you? Are you as optimistic as Ben for this 2026 season?
Perhaps more intrigued than optimistic.
That's a good word for it.
at this moment in time, I think it's hard. I mean, again, look how we looked at it last year. Like we were so down the dumps last year. I think perhaps a bit disappointment with the whole curtain sort of era ended. I feel like a very abrupt departure at the end of the season. It didn't really everything he did for the team. It was a bit of a shame, I guess, that Jim didn't really get the chance to, go out there and get his moment with the fans, for everyone to show their appreciation towards him. I'm interested to see what he does this year in terms of finding if he does get a new job or if he stays out of football. Because I don't know it's hard to really tell what Jim's going to do at the moment. But
sure,
get back on topic quickly. Intrigue. I just think it's hard to tell at the moment. I think Ben's alluded to as well. There's so many gaps in this team that still needs to be filled. And again, I do agree. I think they will perhaps look out of the MLS outside of America for a new left back. I think that probably is a smart play with the history they have got with signing that players like Kai Wagner from outside from Europe, especially. Perhaps even try and find a regen of Kai Wagner, another player that they can mould into that Kai Wagner type. Who knows? But yeah, I think again it's gonna be interesting to see how they approach. I think these next 3 weeks are gonna be interesting to see how how serious they are about the season, but how the season is going to go because again they've got no CONCACAF Champions Cup, I think, is it?
Cup, yeah.
Yeah, CONCACAF Champions Cup game at the start of February, so they've got three weeks to make signings and get their first preparations in for those first couple of games of the season before the regular season gets underway.
Yeah.
I think how they line up for that first game in the CCC is going to be a big indicator for how of how perhaps not how serious they're going to take the season, but how prepared they are perhaps of how the season's going to go, how much trust they're going to have in perhaps the younger players that were playing more backseat roles last year. Because again, last year I think anyone really predicted Bacania to become that leading centre half that he was.
Yeah, he was awesome.
I mean, again, are they going to expect a player like a Marcus Anderson to step up and Neil Pierre to step up? I mean, a CG only like players like younger players. I mean, I know Raffaello's still somehow with the team as well. I mean,
Oh yeah, I forgot about
I
him.
mean, I mean, is he going to play a bigger role this year with how things are? I don't know. Like, especially with Quinn out, and is he perhaps going to have a bigger role? They're going to see him with a bigger role this year. I mean, who knows? Like, they're going to sit back and see what they've got this year, or they're going to, be aggressive with the money they've, recuperated from the players that have already gone, and Baribo and Wagner and Glesnes. They're going to use that money and be more aggressive to bring in not more bigger names, but more more money signings. Because I mean, with the way that you do buy players, I mean, they're so left field you've never heard of them 9 times
Yeah.
out of 10. So I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how they do approach it, especially with again they've been aggressive already this off season with a couple of the signings, and are they going to continue that approach? I mean, I'm excited to see because I mean, it's the transfer window. It's always exciting when you sign players, but
The last time the Union really went to players we knew was when they brought in the three MLS players of Torres, Pereira, and Damian Lowe. And really, Damian
yeah,
Lowe was the only one that worked out. Andres got the doghouse, and hopefully he's recovering well. I know he had a pretty nasty injury, and then obviously Joaquin Torres just never worked out outside of his first 30 seconds that he had on the field. Um, yeah, I think intrigue's the right word. I think you have to be very honest with yourself as a fan of the Philadelphia Union. It's not like the other Philadelphia teams at all, right? Eagles are Super Bowl contenders every year, or at least in the conversation. Phillies are now usually in that conversation as well, considering the money they spend. Flyers, Sixers. You need to have really honest conversations with yourself as a fan of any club, whether it be Eagles, Union, etc. I think a lot of times the Philadelphia Union fans are fans that joined once they got good, right? Soccer is obviously not the biggest sport in this country. We all know that. Very few people have been following the team like as long as Ben and I have in the early 2010, 2012 eras. Um, a lot of them saw a team doing really well and got excited about it, and they went to the games and they loved the games and they saw the trophies and in the shield and the run. And like, okay, we've been fans since 2019, 2020, and this is what we expect. Want to see a team compete. And when they constantly sell, it's hard for the casual, non-soccer understanding fans to really buy in. But if you are someone who enjoys the club, that's just something you have to have. You cannot be optimistic every year. You need to just be intrigued to see what happens. Because I think, as both of you guys kind of mentioned, we never know what this franchise is going to do ever. We never know. Are they going to go sign three MLS players? Are they going to sign someone from, Korea or whatever? We have no idea how far they're going to go to rebuild this roster every single season. But I think as we've been covering this team, Dave and Ben, you've been watching, it's like every season you just have to go in there knowing we have no idea what's about to happen. We just have to kind of go for the ride and enjoy it. And if we can get lightning in a bottle like we did in 2022, great. If not, we just have to keep trying to follow this team as best we can, which is hard sometimes because like 2024 or rather 2023, we ran it back and we were so excited and it just fell flat on our face.
yeah.
So this is Across the Pitch, A8 on the AAT Sports Network, our off-season episode. We'll probably do another one in the next 2.5, 3 weeks before the season starts. I imagine we're going to still do post-game coverage as of right now. That is in the plans. We talked about doing some pregame work. I know, Ben, you kind of highlighted trying to do some pregame shows as well. That seems to be a fun thing to do. So for those of you who followed us last year in the past probably 18 months, you know our postgame show is a staple of our coverage. That will continue throughout the season to the best of our ability. As well as match previews, player analysis, that kind of stuff. So we're going to do as much as we can to cover this team to the best of our ability. But otherwise, thank you all for watching, listening to the show. We'll be back again soon for another episode. But otherwise, go Union.
Doop.